Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr., Brandy, and Mekhi Phifer, directed by Danny Cannon. Now, what caused the original director, Jim Gillespie, to not show up? Well, Freddie Prinze Jr. didn't like working with him, so we got Danny Cannon coming in as director. And let's see how this movie goes, because I've never seen any of these movies until now. So let's just get into it. We open with Julie James, returned by Jennifer Love Hewitt, dreaming about how she confesses she killed a man from the last movie and was just an accident until the priest turns out to be Ben Willis, aka the fisherman, who was the killer of the last movie, and she wakes up, which is a piss poor opener, as I hate dream sequences in the movies as it comes off rather unnecessary, unless it's a Freddy Krueger movie, and I have reviewed all the Nightmare on Elm Street films before, and this is nowhere near as good as some of the Freddy Krueger movies, as Julie wakes up in class leaving it, and Will Benson walks her home as he leaves her, and I get the impression he's in love with her until Ray Bronson, returned by Freddie Prinze Jr., shows up, while coming home, and admittedly he's jealous of her and Will, and Julie and Ray have a bad talk and gets home to herself and goes to sleep until her roommate Carla Wilson, played by Brandy Norwood, whom I reviewed in last... Well, I haven't reviewed her, but I've seen her in last year's A24 terrible horror film, The Front Room, sneaks up on Julie while trying to borrow a dress from her closet, in which she hides in and scares the living shit out of her. And the dialogue falls flat, a hell of a lot worse than the original, as this is terribly acted by the actors. Carla takes Julie to a club where everybody is drinking and dancing while hanging out with Carla's boyfriend Tyrell, or Ty, whom I'm going to call him for the rest of the show, played by Mekhi Phifer, until Will shows up and Carla and Ty sets them up, and she freaks out over seeing the fisherman at the balcony, and she looks for him until Will approaches her, and she tells him she wants to go home right away, and she goes back to sleep. And this is badly shot, as director Danny Cannon does a poor job telling this plot, as it feels like any Friday the 13th movie. And she wakes up, another series I've done before, and she wakes up, and the next day comes, and Carla gets a call from the radio and guesses the answer to a question, which is the capital of Brazil, and she gets the right answer and says Rio de Janeiro, and wins a trip to the Bahamas. And I looked up the answer. It was wrong since the 1960s. I mean, it might be still that. It was called Priscilla since the 1960s. And she calls Ray to come up with them, and he doesn't accept at first, but he decides to surprise her. And I can't believe this director got the capital of Brazil wrong, or maybe right. I couldn't tell you which one it is, as this director needs to look up his history, as he failed at it. Ray and a friend of his arrive over to Julie's place and bumps into a dead body until the fisherman tries to kill Ray off. And next day comes, and Julie ends up going to the Bahamas without Ray. But Carla, Ty, and Will, who's afraid to go on a plane and get there, Ty pukes on the sea, and they get approached by Titus Telesco, played in an uncredited role by Jack Black, as this cameo is funny in a ha-ha kind of way. And they get to the house, and Brazil looks beautiful, as one day I'll go there, but the hotel clerk was very rude in this scene, and I hate the characters as they're absolutely much more miserable than the last movie, and it makes Brazil look miserable, which is very sad. And don't get me wrong, I want to go there one day, but this movie makes it look bad. They get to their sweet honeymoon hotel room, and they encounter a maintenance man while Ray is hospitalized, and a hospital worker, as well as a cop, watch Ray get until he gets out of the bed and escapes. And Ty and Will go to a bar as the bartender named Nancy gets them a drink, while she's just as disrespectful as ever as the other ones. And they question as Julie, and they ask her disrespectful questions, as Julie and Carla join them in the drinking and start singing karaoke as Julie sings I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor, until the karaoke machine says I still know what you did last summer. And she runs away, as this movie is so bad in so many levels. And she gets back to the room with a note that says surprise, as Will sneaks up on her. And this is such a laughable film right off the fucking bat. Carla jumps on the bed while Ty lays there, which feels dangerous while she wants to work for Wall Street. And I don't care what is happening to her. I just want to see some deaths, as that'll take a while till we get to them. Meanwhile, the boatman gets scared at by Titus, and the boatman tells him to piss off as he falls in the water and gets back up as the fisherman kills the boatman while Ray calls their hotel but no answer. And he knows something is wrong while the housekeeping lady knocks on the door and sees blood on the door, as well as the towel, and the fisherman kills her. And thank God we got to the deaths, because if I waited another 15 minutes, then why the fuck is this a horror movie to begin with? Which bothers me from the get-go, as Titus sneaks up on Carla and Ty as they wanted privacy until Will comes to the jacuzzi, and Julie showers and hears things as she looks around the room, including outside her door, and the fisherman is in there with her. And there is a reason for the sequel. And is there a reason for the sequel? I can't think of one, as the first movie was fine as it is, despite I didn't like that film. But it's getting worse from here. Julie finds the maintenance man's dead body, and Julie runs out of the room and tells Carla, Will, and Ty there's a dead body in the closet, and they alert the clerk, and he doesn't believe her, as does Ty, while Titus smokes more pot and gets high until he gets killed by the fisherman. And Jack Black had to start somewhere, as this was the beginning of his career, while Ray goes to a pawn shop to trade the engagement ring he had for Julie, as he was going to propose to her earlier in the film, and he trades it for a gun. And the next day comes in Brazil, and the phones are down, and Ty torments Julie, as Carlo and Will tell Ty to not be an asshole to her about it, and it rains there, as Ty acts very disrespectful to Will while Julie and Carla train at the gym, and Julie gets a tan. And the scares in this movie are absolutely cheap, as I never got scared of this movie once. Carla finds a dead body in the laundry dryer, and Will and Ty find Titus dead while Julie almost dies because of the fisherman, because she traps her in the tanning machine until Will, Ty, and Carla escape from the death trap, and finds the hotel manager dead and written in blood, I still know, as Julie explains how they didn't find the body, which is a cheap ass way to make this movie, as it's a lazy way to make this movie. And they look for the fisherman while Ray is on a boat on the way to Brazil. Julie, Will, and Carla and Ty keep looking for the motherfucker, and they find Julie's toothbrush and try to get the motherfucker out of there. As Will and Ty pack up their shit, the lights go out and it's still stormy, and Julie bumps into the maintenance man, and that scar was cheap as fuck. The maintenance man shows Ben Willis, aka the fisherman, used to work here at the hotel, and he shows them where Ben killed people at and explains how it happened, and goes to the grave, saying Julie will die soon, and she calls the fisherman out, and Will splits from the others while Julie, Carla, and Ty find some weapons and end up with knives, and the maintenance man named Estes, and there's the fisherman, and he has a boat and says, you're not getting off this island, to Will, along with Ty getting briefly beat up by Nancy, as Nancy? You mean Carla. No, Nancy's the bartender, whatever. As Ty will get killed by the fisherman while Julie, Carla, and Nancy hide in the attic, as Ray tries to get to a boat to get to Brazil, and he goes on sea. And here's an interesting fun fact. This movie was shot in Mexico, not Brazil. What the fuck is going on with these locations? To look for Julie, and this shit is a total waste of time. Carla almost gets killed by stepping on some glass and land on a garden, and she gets up, and the fisherman comes to the garden after Carla, as Julie and Nancy try to get her, as they find her, and the fisherman gets to the garden after Carla, and they get her out and escape, as they get to the basement and find all the dead bodies until Will gets them out of there and gets back to the hotel, and Carla and Nancy get the first aid kit, as Will turns out to be the fisherman, and takes Julie, which was super telegraphed based on how in love he was with her. As we also learn, he was Ben Willis's son, and the fisherman kills Nancy, but Carla runs away until Ray shows up and fights both Ben and Will, and the editing in this film between Ray and Will was choppy. And Ray gets out of death, and Ben kills Will, and Julie kills Ben and puts him in a grave at a cemetery. And the next day comes as Julie gets out of there with Ray, and they're found by the Coast Guard as Carla is alive, and Julie hugs her, and they get back home with Julie and Ray living together in a house as Ray brushes his teeth, and Julie doesn't hear anything as someone must have broken into the house and sees Ben is still alive, as that must have been a dream, because she's in the new movie, and the climax is the worst. But how worse compared to the original? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 1.5 out of 10. The dialogue falls flat as hell, a hell of a lot worse than the original, as the acting in this is terrible, absolutely terrible. And not only director Danny Cannon did a poor job telling this plot, as it feels like a Friday the 13th movie, but he needs to get his history to Brazil right. While Brazil is a beautiful place to look at, but the characters in this movie makes it more miserable, as this is a more miserable movie than the last time. But don't get me wrong, I want to go to Brazil one day, but this movie makes it look bad. This movie is so bad in so many levels, as this is a laughable film right out the fucking bat. And can I just say, is it wrong that I wanted to get to the deaths, as it took a while till we got there, and when they did, I was like, thank God they got there. If I waited for another 15 minutes after I said that, then why is this a horror series anyways? Which bothers me from the get-go. There is no reason to make this sequel nor a series of movies, as the first movie was fine as it was, despite I didn't like the movie, but it got worse from here, as this is a strong non-recommendation for this movie, as this is worse than the first movie, and there was no point to it whatsoever, and the scares are absolutely cheap, and I never got scared once in this movie. And this is one of the worst movies in the late 1990s as far as I'm concerned. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this review, and I will be back next time with I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. And until then, what are you waiting for?